Welcome, Candice.
Oops. Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
Well, I'm
Where
alive. How about you?
I'm doing good. Where'd Victor go?
Victor was frozen for a minute and he jacked out. I'm assuming he's coming back in. Haven't seen Mike yet.
Oh yeah, Mike said that he was in a bad service area. So he was going to move to a better service area so that his video wouldn't mess up
So now,
during the taping.
now you know what image that conjured up? I don't remember if you remember Green Acres, the TV show where they used to climb the telephone pole to make the telephone calls.
That might have been a little bit before me.
Yeah, that was way before you. I think it probably went off the air the year you were thinking about being born.
Wow. Wow.
I just visioned Michael Harris climbing up one of the cell phone towers to get a better signal. You think he was
He's halfway there, so that's only like 2 steps for him because he's halfway there. So
this is true. He is his own antenna. Well, I'm here for you if you need me. Let me know what you want me to do.
Hopefully one of them get in here soon. It'll probably be Mike, whose reception will still be horrible, even though he claimed he went to a better spot. So I'm not sure what's taking Vic so long to get back in, but I do want to welcome everybody to Whose Opinion Is It Anyway? It's 5 o'clock and we're supposed to start at 5, so we'll see if they show up. As you can see, I'm here in my car, but I'm still here. Hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. So if I'm not looking at you, it's because my eyes are on the road. Oh, and there's Mike.
No, that's Vic.
Yeah, this is Vic.
Oh, that's Vic.
This is Vic, doggone it.
Vic, you had to move to another spot too, huh?
Yeah, man. I'm in transit and whatnot, trying to get situated
Shelly,
here.
don't move.
On,
You got a good spot right there, man. Stop. You got a good spot right there.
I'd rather be outside. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like going to the pavilion.
I'm gonna have to turn into one of those old school producers and managers to start fining y'all for every minute that y'all are late. We might have to take it back to the fine.
Who are you, James Brown or something? You James Brown again?
Whatever gets you here on time.
I'm normally here before you and Mike, man.
That's not true.
Yes,
That's not
it
true
is.
at all.
Yes, it is.
What happens is I peep in, I see no one is there, and then I leave.
Right.
That's what happens.
Are we live?
We are live. How was your week?
Had a good week. Had a pretty good week. Things are starting to get busy as a new term is yet approaching and so forth. But we're taking it all in stride, right? How about yours?
I don't know. So this is one of those weeks where it was extremely busy. And so it just went from Monday to Friday really fast this week. It was really interesting. We had a youth summit that happened this week on Wednesday.
Wow. Okay.
And it was a youth water summit. And the youth over at the Mackenzie Patrice Kroom Flint Community Water Lab, they hosted a youth water summit. So they talked a little bit about, what's going on with them over in the lab, and talked about, proper ways to test your water, just sharing a little insight.
That's fantastic. So what good? I know a lot of good came out of it, right? What are some of the positives that came out of this particular event, this conference, you think?
Out of the, so obviously, more notoriety about the lab that is here in the city of Flint, where the residents can bring their water and have their water tested in an independent testing lab. So it's not connected to the government in any way, shape, or form. And it's for the community. It's essentially, a community asset. And so that for me, that's the biggest thing that came out of it is this is something that, the residents can use so that they can, so they trust their water a little bit more, So for me, that was the biggest thing. I think the second biggest thing that came out of it is seeing that you have youth who are preparing themselves for the future, as opposed to how this happened and we were kind of caught off guard. While technically they are the same kind of reactionary, it's still they're actually being preventative as well. So they're preparing themselves for, and God forbid, their bid next time, but they're preparing
Absolutely.
themselves for if this should happen, or they're preparing themselves to be an asset to other communities. We've been through this. We know how to help you get through it. You know, we know what contaminants to look for, to test for, and how to test for them. So I think, if nothing else, those two things, building something that the community can trust, and then having youth that are ready for
Ooh. You mentioned a key word there, Candice. You made reference to this idea of trust. What do you think the community is in as far as trust is concerned with our water, right? And in terms of government on all levels, to be honest with you.
Right.
I know that the answer to both of those things is there is no trust. So there's that.
Right. No trust.
But I think that is more, it's government, again, like you said, on every level. I think if we take a look at nationally what's going on, you see Steve Bannon, you see what just happened with him.
Yeah. Another one bites the dust. Right?
And he's scheduled to speak at the RNC next week.
Wait. He's scheduled to speak?
Yes.
From his jail cell, I take it up.
My thing is, how is he going to speak at the RNC when we already know the Republicans only have one person they can give their nomination to anyway? How is he going to speak when you have the president distancing himself from him?
They might change that part of the agenda, right?
I'm sure he's no longer scheduled to speak, but you know what? I don't know. You've had an administration that's been so bold and brazen that stuff will blatantly have happened and they'll go, no, it didn't. So who knows?
Absolutely.
So by next week, they'll be like, Steve was never arrested. What do you mean?
He was never a part of our administration. He never advised the president.
Well, they'll just circle the wagons around Steve Bannon. That's what they'll do.
You think so, Mike? You think he would be bold enough to try to free this guy, right? If the opportunity presented itself?
I think we've seen. We already have the answer to that.
So your answer is yes.
Wait. I think no.
Mike and Candice. Maybe you could take this one, Mike. But here's my thing, though, man. Game recognized game, and he's running game.
Right.
Here you have one of Trump's main ideas and concepts that came out of his campaign was build the wall, and that he was going to make Mexico pay for it. Now they raised what, $25 billion, right? And this guy and his other three henchmen were living off the hog. They were living high on the hog regarding that, right? They're showing their base what they're really about. They're about that dollar, that money, that cheddar, that cheese. That's all it's about. What do you think, Mike?
Well, if you listen to what Trump said, hey, I told him that one wasn't a good one. Basically, the scheme you using ain't the scheme I would use. You need to go a little deeper with your scheme, right? If you're gonna be a con artist, do what I do, and do it that way. But Steve Bannon was greedy, like lots of Republicans are, and he needed the dollars very, very quickly. But also, I'm listening to what Trey Gowdy said and what Donald Trump is saying. They're pretty much going to throw him under the bus because they're talking about how he went out on Donald Trump, how he started talking about a tell-all and talking about what was going on in the administration. So they're done with him, and they might just let him get rolled over. But that doesn't bode well for the Postmaster General. We got Steve Wynn and Michael Cohen. Like those people were the finance leaders of the Republican Party. Michael Cohen is in jail. Steve Wynn almost went to jail, right? And Louis DeJoy is running the post office right now. And so he surrounds himself with nothing but crooks and thugs. And that's how he deals. It's always about the next big money scheme. And that's probably why his current person is running the campaign. He just got put in because the last guy was gaining money with notoriety off of Donald Trump.
Now, Mike and Candice, let me ask you this question, man.
So these guys are nothing but grifters. They're grifting the country. They're grifting the world. I mean, think about this. Donald Trump talks about China every day. But his daughter right now is getting paid from China. His son-in-law is getting money from China. His friends are getting money from China. Donald Trump is getting money from China. But he talks about China every day as though it's some kind of negotiation for him to negotiate his good deeds against China. I think he's just negotiating better deals for his daughter, not for the country, not for America.
So we do have
So let me.
some Facebook comments that as soon as I get stationary, hello to everyone on Facebook. We do have some Facebook comments that as soon as I get stationary, I will go ahead and read some of them for you all. I know that Jeff did talk about the 600 million settlement, and then someone else said about how much is that going to go to lawyer fees and all that. And for anybody who's not sure what they mean by the $600 million settlement, it's a preliminary settlement right now. It's yet to be signed by a judge, but they're referencing the civil lawsuit settlement as it relates to the Flint water crisis. And so that's what they're talking about with the $600 million settlement. Like I said, we do have plenty of comments that I'm going to get to once I kind of get settled, but obviously I have to keep my eyes on the road, my hands on the wheel. So I can't really press to read all of your comments. And like clockwork, if I want to catch a red light, I'm not catching them. I'm catching all green lights. So, but somebody else said, Mike, one of the comments was, and you know what? The thing about this show, we attract a lot of conservative opinions. A lot of people have contrary opinions to Mike. Deep Blue, I think you bring them in, Deep Blue. Someone did say she all continues to be for the Democrats, and they call them the Democrats. And then they also said, "Are you acting like the Democrats aren't crooked as well?" Hold on, I got a red light here, so I'm gonna try to read this as fast as I can.
Okay.
Hometown Hero said the kids got screwed with lifetime damage and one-time check is not enough. Hometown Hero also said how much are the lawyers going to get. Also said the president fired him for a reason. Bannon was a nutcase. Seed of Abraham said, so I suppose that all blacks like clockwork should continue to vote for the Democrats and their failed policies that have controlled every black man's speech for the last 50 years. Democrats aren't greedy. Hometown Hero said, correct. Abraham, Black America needs to vote Republican 100% this election to wake up the Democrat Party out of their trance and maybe they'll actually do something. And oh my God. My light is green again. I'll let you all take those comments. Go ahead.
So here's where I got to go with that. See, for 50 years, let's take Michigan, for example, in Detroit. Things used to work in Michigan, but they don't anymore. We call ourselves Mississippi. We got potholes that are worse than anybody's potholes you've ever seen in your life. We've got a Republican legislative body who's been running this state for 25 years. Ditto, if you want to talk about Illinois and what's happening in Chicago, they just had a Republican governor, even though they had a Democratic legislative body. And also, what we see in the country reflects what happens in the cities. See, they always want to talk about cities as though they're a bad thing. But San Francisco is a wonderful city led by Democrats. Los Angeles is relatively a safe city led by Democrats. Seattle is having its problem, but it's a wonderful city. I mean, there's cities all across the country, many more that are great cities. And we're having some problems right now because people are out protesting and having their issues. But you can't act as though cities are the problem with this country. Listen, California, with all its wonderful cities, holds more sway than any of the cities in the South, who may be or may not be run by Republicans. And most of those cities, even in the South, Jacksonville and these other cities, even in the Deep South, are run by Democrats. This is a play to put suburbs against the cities. Cities are wonderful places. People flock to them. They get jobs from them. They're the lifeblood of every state. If you want to talk about any state, there's no South Dakota without the cities of South Dakota. There's no Iowa without Des Moines. There's no Alaska without Juneau and other places in Alaska. So stop messing with talking about cities. This is the equivalent of talking about S-hole countries. So they want to blame the cities. Listen, at its core, you're the president. So if the cities are bad, you're the president right now. What are you doing about that? But the main part about cities is this. Cities are wonderful places. They're the lifeblood of most states. We give more than we get back. So let's take Flint, for example. Flint gives, for every dollar it sends to the state or to the federal government, we only get 6 cents back. The suburbs get $1.20 back or $1.50 back. We don't even get back what we send back to the states or to the federal government. We're not even getting our fair share. So let's talk about that first. You want
I think that you've got some points in there, Mike, and I'm actually happy that you mentioned something because I wanted to talk about that today. As a matter of fact, so it's amazing how that conversation has come back around to what I wanted to talk about today, and it is the fact that you have a lot of people who say that it doesn't matter who the president is, that their city has seen no difference under a Democrat or a Republican. And so I think it's interesting that we all start to have these arguments and point all these fingers when, and I'm gonna go down the route that me and Vic always go down, is that the fact that we the people are suffering while we're enduring all of this political theater. My thing is, who has actually benefited the people? And before everybody jumps in the comments saying all of this, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've looked at my city. My city has looked the same under all of them.
Well, let me say,
and I think let me chime into the conversation here, Mike, real quick. Let me just chime in, and I think both of you are raising some great points, right? And let me just raise another point that I think needs to be placed on the table. It's one of the elephants in the room. I'm going to make some predictions. I'll say this. I'll say this about this current political season, in as far as the African American community is concerned, and the selection of Kamala Harris. I think that what you will continue to see, even though Biden did select Kamala Harris to serve as his running mate, he had no choice, right? I think what would have happened is that it would have effectively poured water on the African American base in as far as enthusiasm is concerned, in general, and in particular African American women. But beyond that, I think that what you're going to continue to see, and I think this is a good thing, you will continue to see people from our community challenging the Democratic Party. See, I think that no matter who wins, whether it's Trump or Biden, of course, I'm voting for Biden, but no matter who wins this election, whether it's Trump or Biden, you're going to continue to see the African American community pressing the envelope more so as it relates to this political system, because I think that we're at a time and a place where we are reassessing our relationship with these political parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and the political process in general. So that takes me back to what I always make reference to. I always make reference to Harold Cruz, the great historian who wrote the book, The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual, who said to the leadership and to those political pundits in our community that we need to master the lessons of history in our community and address the internal concerns and interests of the African American community. Number one, if we don't do that, we're going to face some dire consequences, right? So that's right. Number one. That's number one. But also, beyond whatever happens with regard to whoever wins this election, America's at a crossroads. America's at a crossroads. You already have economists and historians and scholars who are suggesting that the American experiment is not only at the crossroads, but number one, it's become a cleft and divided nation. That's what Samuel P. Huntington says in his book, The Remaking of the Global Order. This book was published back in 1996-97, and he said that if America wasn't careful, America would become a divided nation. Well, hello, folks, it's 2020, and here we are. One more point, and I'll just toss this out for good measure. I think that people are going to have to think about the intended as well as the unintended consequences of what this Trump administration has done as relates to the rule of law, as relates to the Constitution, as relates to the balance of powers and so forth. Now, you conservatives will bear me witness on this. There are those who are members of Donald Trump's camp who embrace this idea of the fourth turning. And the fourth turning in general is about the upending of the American body politic. They're turning things upside down. It's a revolution of sorts. It's a revolution of sorts, right? So what are the intended as well as the unintended consequences that relates to that? There's some questions that America has to deal with. And let me just toss this out for good measure too, and I'll relieve the mic here. No matter whether it's Democrats or Republicans who win this election, America is deeply divided. What's going to happen to this country moving forward? Because on the horizon, I don't see anyone who has the chutzpah, who has the intestinal fortitude to try to grapple with those questions and draw this country back together with honest dialogue, putting everything on the table. If not, I shudder to think what will happen or what may happen. What do you guys think?
Well, okay. So from my perspective, I agree with you. Look, America's at a crossroads, but it's not because of lack of forward progress, right? People that look like us, well-meaning, 70% of white folks, most people in America want forward progress. But you have this virulent strain of the Steve Bannons, of the people that are making comments calling us Democrats and all this other nonsense, right? These are the people who can't really be reached, who feel like America is going in the wrong direction because we're getting rid of the status quo. And that's problematic for people who want to maintain the status quo. And whenever you have a shakeup of the regular people who want to folks from the bottom coming to the top, you always have those on the top who want to repress that. And this is the problem we face in America right now, and that's going to lead to some kind of problem. I think when the president says that Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, or anti-fascists are terrorists, but the Ku Klux Klan, who's murdered, killed, terrorized Jews and African Americans and Latinos for decades, aren't bad people. They're good people on both sides. This is where you have the main problem of our country. We have a virulent racist as president, and he's got his minions and his followers who will stop at nothing to destroy anybody who lifts their head to talk about good things. I'll give you an example. There were people online last night talking bad about Joe Biden and his stuttering aspect that he has with himself. And there's a little boy, and I was almost brought to tears listening to this little boy speak with a stutter, and people were talking bad about him online. Who does that? What kind of people are those people? These are virulent people that have no idea about what America is supposed to be. They only want it to be what they want it to be, and that's a ruthless, crazy place with no idea of what should matter to this country, with no idea about inclusion, about caring for either other people's feelings, about caring for bringing everybody into the big tent. They only want to keep the tent exclusive to themselves and their friends, and that's a fight. That's going, like you said, Brother Vic, that's going to be a fight, and we're going to bring it to the fore. And I think we had a small window at one time, probably in the 70s and 80s, when people who couldn't just say anything about black folks, they might get smashed in the mouth. I mean, I remember those times. But now we're in a place where these people feel open and honest about saying that they're racist, or about saying, white power. I mean, the president's tweeting out white power. Think about that in this day and age. And he's using that process right now to line his pockets. And these people who are being like guinea pigs to this have no idea what's really happening to them. They want to call Democrats Democrats, but what about all the Republicans who are stealing from you? Steve Bannon is just one small piece of it. There's dozens of Republicans and businessmen who are stealing from you every day. That's one of the reasons why the cities are in the shape they're in. I mean, we see this happening every day to our cities. Businessmen come in, make a lot of money, and leave, and don't have any regard for the people, the welfare of the cities that they call themselves lording over. That's where we are.
So what do you think? What do you think, Candice?
I think I was reading some of these comments.
I can't hear.
I just.
Hey,
listen.
Candice, we can't hear you. I can't hear you anyway.
I don't know why you can't hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh,
Vic,
I can hear Mike.
Vic, can you hear me now? I guess Vic can't hear me.
Yeah.
But
he might have to go out and come back in.
I was just reading some of the comments, right? And so you have people in the comments, Seed of Abraham in particular, saying, let's deal with fatherlessness in our own communities. Where's that conversation? It's divided. Hillary won the popular vote, but the Electoral College balances the power of the majority. California and New York can't decide the election, and she didn't care about the Rust Belt. Seed of Abraham said Black Lives Matter is corrupt. It's not terrorist. Hometown Hero said that's why the popular vote is irrelevant. You have to win states, and she didn't do a good job with her message. And just kind of go down some more. Hometown Hero, and I'm at the bottom, Paul. Hometown Hero said Trump is about as racist as Biden, and I don't think either of them are. Charlottesville is a lie. You can read this transcript, and he didn't say what was reported. Biden praised former KKK senators.
Okay, so can I address this? See, this is what happens when you push back on racism. They have to fight. They have to put out lies. Look, listen to what this person said. Charlottesville is a lie. Biden is as racist as Trump. What are you telling me? So you're acknowledging, number one, that Trump is a racist. Okay, all right. But you're trying to tell me that Biden is just as bad as he is. Now, I've been around a lot of racists, and I've been around a lot of people who are not racist. I, as a black man, can define what racism is because I know what it is to me, right? Black people have a racometer. We can tell racism when it comes towards us. Now, I don't know if Hometown Hero is black, white, indifferent. It doesn't matter. I think Abraham seems to be a black person. He's got a black picture up. But these people come out of the woodwork because they're not interested in solving problems. They're only interested in pushing their agenda. And their agenda is to beat back anybody who dares, like myself, Big Blue, or whatever y'all want to call me, Deep Blue and others, who dares to challenge their silly notions of racism. There's silly notions that Charlottesville is a lie. There's silly notions that what you see in the way of racism is something that's not really happening to you. I guess let's address one of the other problems the guy mentioned. He mentioned fatherlessness. Okay, I agree with you. That's a problem. Are you going to address that today? How do we address that? Let's go by this point. Let's ask black people how to solve fatherlessness. We have programs to deal with that. Let's talk about building better schools, about teaching young black men an African-based curriculum so that they're proud of themselves, so they understand.
Real quick, and I want to say, and I know he did say in our communities, and it is a black man, but fatherlessness is a problem in all communities. It's just for whatever the reason that when it comes to black people, things that are common to human beings seem to get blown up and made it seem like it's just us. When fatherlessness happens all across the board, but because the comment was in our communities, I'm gonna let it ride. But I just wanted to point that out. I did also want to read a couple more of these comments. Seed of Abraham said, Candice, not all black folks think the same. We are just as diverse as anyone else. Hometown Hero said, not according to Biden. Hometown Hero also said, no, Michael. I just said, I don't think either of them are racist. Seed of Abraham said, I, as a black man, can define it myself as well. And Mike, that was in regards to your comment about racism. Seed of Abraham also said, yeah, I'm blackly black with a panther, black, kinky-headed wife, black, brilliant son, black daughter, and dog. Hometown Hero said, I had a black father and a white mother. He got to me before the media and the Democrats did. Systematic racism is just an excuse for failure. Point me at a racist and I'll stand with you. Hometown Hero, but you cannot endlessly pretend everything is racism. Seed of Abraham said, what program that you know of that deals with fatherlessness? And he also said, what we have the highest amount of fatherlessness, over 75%.
Okay, so first of all, let's deal with the last thing first. Yes. So when we talk about fatherlessness or broken families, when black people, black women, or black men say, listen, we want to put programs in our communities that deal with fatherlessness. We want to have those programs and the money that you're sending on police forces and sending on militarizing the police, send it to our neighborhoods so we can use it as we care, as we want to make sure that people can keep families whole. Guess what? Hometown Hero, Seed of Abraham, and the others will say, forget those programs when they're not needed. But at the same time, he spins it and says, there's no such thing as systematic racism. Well, if we say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ken.
In Flint, the Father and Son Project run by Miss E. Hill Deloney is one that deals with fatherlessness.
I agree. And they should be able to get the same funds that these militarized police force funds would go to. They should be able to get funds directed at that. Look, we have to fight. I know this as a person who deals with nonprofits every day. Look, we have to fight for pennies and nickels and dimes when Steve Bannon can steal 25 million out of your back pocket any day and out of your lint drawer. I mean, this is what we're dealing with when we deal with people who want to say these things. But listen, when we talk about solving issues, we talk about what we want to do in Flint. We want to solve our issues, right? We want to have a water lab where we can test water and let everybody know what's happening with their water, so we kind of try to bring some trust back. But if nothing else, we let you know what's happening with your water in your home. That empowers you. Do you know that there was someone who said, well, don't listen to the lab, they're not certified? I understand that. We're not certified yet, and we're working towards our certification. But the issue is that we're empowering ourselves. We're doing something for ourselves, and people will still mess around and talk trash about that. This is the virulent strain of people. When black folks do stand up and say, I'm going to do it for myself, here you come. There's no place on this planet where racists haven't gone in and beat up and beat back the indigenous people there. Even when the people say, listen, we're going to do our own thing. Let black folks in Flint tomorrow say, look, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to put our tax dollars into our own neighborhoods, and we're not going to send it to the government. You'll have government officials here tomorrow making sure that our money is spent where they want it to be spent at. Spent on tax breaks for big businesses. Spent on militarizing the police. Listen, I'm all for police, but I know this, and Flavor Flav said it 25 years ago, 911 is a joke. So when I call the police, they don't show up. But I'm still paying taxes. Isn't that systematic racism? Right?
I guess I want allow me to redirect really quickly, because, and I understand that your conversation right now, Mike, is in regards to what was asked in the comment section or what was stated in the comment section. But I think we've allowed ourselves to be a little derailed here from where we originally were.
Sure. That's right.
And so I think that conversation about fatherlessness and systematic racism, that is definitely a conversation that can be had, because the two are interconnected. Whether they agree or not, the reality is the two are interconnected. There are a lot of things that contribute to fatherless homes within our communities. Whether you want to talk about the fathers being jailed or in prison, when you want to talk about the bail system that keeps them from being able to go home, even though they're nonviolent offenders, them having, high bail that nobody can afford to pay because most of the people are working 2 and 3 jobs that are below minimum wage. I mean, there are a lot of different factors that contribute to fatherlessness. And I think to just simply say black people don't have daddies, that's lazy. You know what I'm saying? Or to say that black men just walk away from their families. I think in some cases it does happen, but in others it's lazy to just say that. And so but
Candice, Donald Trump has 3 sets of kids by 3 different women, right? But because he's rich and he's able to afford a better life for his children, he's able to help them out. And this is all we're saying. If black fathers, if systematic racism wasn't continuing to beat down black folks who are trying to rise up and do things in their community, then we wouldn't have some of these issues. Fathers could still be important and be a part of their children's lives. I say that as my son sits right here next to me. We could talk all day about fatherlessness, but having resources, I've got resources. So I'm able to do things for my son that other people can't do. But like you said, we're derailing that. Here's an evil demon in the White House who's going around trying to break up families, putting kids in cages, taking fathers away from their children. Right? But we're talking about fatherlessness.
Big Blue, let me tell you something. If nobody else names these conservatives, it's you, because you just tried to say that they derailed it into something that I wasn't talking about either. But Mike, if nothing else, every week you provide a laugh for me. If nothing else,
Let's say it wasn't factual.
Vic, I said let's get this plane back on the track. Hold on, and Mike said okay, but then Mike took it on the other side where we wasn't going either. I just listened. Go ahead, Vic. Go ahead.
Yeah, folks. I think that as I was alluding to early on, I think we're going to have to redirect our focus, and I'm making reference to the African American community, right? I think that no matter what the focus is, right, we need to redirect our focus and have a laser beam focus moving forward. Once again, I'll reiterate the statement. We need to reassess our relationship with these prevailing parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and we need to reassess how we engage the system of politics, right? We have to stop playing checkers and play chess. And really, one of the issues with open air discussions like these is that you have persons who come in and try to derail the conversation, right? But that's neither here nor there. A few weeks ago, Candice, you raised an excellent point about community organizing. And I think that's what we're going to have to get to in terms of organizing neighborhood by neighborhood, organizing locally, or organizing on the county level, the state level, and then also organizing nationally. And you do have some examples of that. For instance, you have the Reverend Dr. Barber out of North Carolina who's doing just that. And actually, a number of years ago, it was very popular and very effective. He was not only organizing within the African-American community, but he was organizing across racial, ethnic, and cultural lines, and also across political lines. And given this season, with regard to how important economics is, he was able to bring Democrats and Republicans and independents in his area under one tent and address issues that were impacting the people. See, I think it's rather than getting into this hero worship and worshiping these people who are running for office and embracing the cult of personality, we need to address brass tacks issues. Serious people want to address serious economic, political, social, and educational issues. That's what we're going to have to do, and we're going to have to drive the issue. We're going to have to push the needle, and we're going to have to hold. I don't give a doggone whether it's a Democrat or Republican. I don't give a doggone whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden in the White House. We got to hold their feet to the fire, because guess what? You're not the president of the Republicans or the president of the Democrats. You're the president of this entire country. We're going to make you do your job. And that's what the people, that's the kind of fire and fervor that has to come from the people. And we have to build from the ground up.
So Vic,
number one.
So Vic, I appreciate you putting the train back on the track, because I could have sworn I said, let's talk about how very few communities have seen change either way. Yes. So thank you, Vic. Thank you so much for putting the train back on the track. Because we can argue all day, like you said, about these people's personalities and who we are and are not willing to vote for and why. But I think today I kind of want to have the conversation centered around, again, we the people, and us holding whomever is in office their feet to the fire. I do understand, before you say it, Mike, that with one of those personalities, they are a bit rogue and they're going to do what they want to do. And they're not going to listen to people. I said it for you, Mike. You don't even got to say it. But what I'm saying is, this conversation today, let's be productive and talk about the fact that someone did say in the comments earlier about the importance of, even when we talk, when you go from a federal down to state to local government, I think government on every level needs to understand that, one, they work for us, and two, that at this point, they all tend to do what they want to do, and that's a no-go. That has to stop. Like, that has to be over. You can't tell me that I vote you in office and then turn around and tell me you can't push legislation through to give people $15 an hour, which is a livable wage. That's not how that works. You can't tell me,
Candice,
wait. You can't tell me you work for me and then in the next breath, after you're in that office, tell me what you're not going to do, especially when you're pushing through that is not to the benefit of our communities. Let's be clear. This country is built off communities. Mike, you just said that yourself. And so now we've got to piece this thing back together piece by piece. And we've got to make sure that these people are looking out for the communities. And part of the way that's going to do that, again, when we talk about fatherlessness and all that you all are bringing up, employment plays a big role in men being in the household. Someone did bring up the welfare system, which says if you have a man in your household, then y'all just going to have to struggle because we're not going to help y'all. So we got to look at all of this thing in totality.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I totally agree with you on all of that. I guess what I sit here and say sometimes is that because Democrats will listen to you, we scream a little louder at them sometimes because, you know, Republicans don't give a damn about you, right? And so, you know, it's a lost cause because you're screaming at a brick wall or literal wall in the case of Donald Trump and his buddies and friends stealing money from you in the name of a wall. But I know this for a fact. I go to those places where Democrats are, and you can talk to them and you can move them, but you got to be organized, and you got to be organized from the grassroots level to move up or reach those individuals. Look, I subscribe to what Dr. Claude Anderson talks about, right? And so that means you got to get some dollars and some money in your pocket so you can influence them. This is America. This is a capitalistic society. This is moved by your votes, because that's the main thing that matters. You got to get out and vote, put in who you want, and then you got to push their butts to where you want them to be at and what you want them to do. And they will respond if you got your organization together. And what happens a lot of times with us is we just do the work and go out and vote. And then after that, we think, well, it's all done. I ain't doing no more. But we need to organize. Minister Vic talked about Reverend Barber, who's an unbelievable organizer. I remember I met him in Washington, D.C. one time. We just because the brother that you would think right up wouldn't be having the ability that he has. But he's on the cane, and he's getting around, and he's organizing thousands of people across the board. He single-handedly pushed back on North Carolina to the point where they had to have North Carolina people be charged with fraud because they were trying to keep people from, like Reverend Barber and the rest of the people in North Carolina, from voting. North Carolina was turned into a purple state because of Reverend Barber, right? So we've got this wonderful aspect of people who can do it from the grassroots. Reverend Barber is a testament to that. Jesse Jackson and others are a testament to that. But we have to move these people above and move them from grassroots to these other levels, and we got to fund them. I mean, an army marches on its stomach, and you got to feed them, and you got to clothe them, and you got to make sure they have what they need in the way of weaponry to fight these governmental officials who are putting millions and billions of dollars in. Listen, Steve Bannon has been backed by billionaires for decades, running Breitbart News. Now, Breitbart puts out conspiracy theory, anti-conspiracy theory. QAnon, Pizzagate in the basement, all this nonsense, this crazy talk. I mean, even this guy just spoke today talking about Charlottesville as a lie. I mean, think about the nonsense and the craziness. We saw this woman, this beautiful woman, get ran over by a guy in a car. We saw these people saying, Jews will not replace us. You gonna tell me they're not to believe that? They're not to understand that's going on? We saw George Floyd get his neck crush, his windpipe crushed an officer. We saw these things. We know what's going on. You don't tell us you urinating on my head and it's rain. We know the truth, but we have to act upon that truth. And we speak about our truth. What are you speaking upon? Lies and make up theories and things about QAnon and stuff that doesn't even matter. Do you know right now there's subversives going around with an American flag with a blue line through it? Start keeping your eyes open. What are these blue line people talking about? They're subversives. They're trying to take over the country. But they got American flag with a blue line through it. There's business owners who got that blue line in their stuff. There's family members. There's pastors. All with these blue lines desecrating the American flag. But as soon as you decide, well, I want to speak out about the American flag and do something different with the American flag or take a knee, you're unpatriotic. With the flag, they got this blue line going through the American flag talking about these subversives and tearing apart the country. We got to keep our eyes open for these people, and they exist in this stream that we're talking to them right now, and there's this everywhere because they're funded by big money donors, and they do their best to shut down anybody who disagrees with them. If you don't believe me, look what just happened to Putin's right-hand man. A guy who wanted to come up right now and disagree with Vladimir Putin was poisoned, and nobody's talking about that. Republicans don't talk about it. They paid people to kill our soldiers. You don't hear Republicans talking about that. This is craziness. It's going on right before our eyes. They're trying to subvert our government. We better keep our eyes open, and we better vote. Look at what's happening with the post office. We haven't talked about that either yet. I definitely want to delve in onto that real deep if we can, Candice, if you don't mind.
Let me raise another point here, because you guys are raising some excellent points. And certainly we've kind of been alluding to this, off and on throughout our conversation. And certainly, Mike, to your point, there are some unscrupulous persons in this country who actually, to be quite frank with you, want to see the fall of America. They really want to inspire a revolution. And I'm gonna be honest, now, Mike, when I say this with the understanding that you're a veteran, right? I don't know if you've been in wartime, but you've served in the military, correct? So with that as a backdrop, I don't think, and I haven't served as a veteran, right? But I don't think the average person wants to see war. We have some people who are openly advocating for a civil war, another civil war to take place in America, and they're playing with fire. You do not want to see, number one, if this country falls economically, you don't want to see that, right? And the after effects thereof. Number two, you don't want to see a bloody civil war, because war is hell. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. But see, we have some irresponsible, let me finish here. You have some irresponsible people who are using platforms in order to spew violent, racist, nonsensical rhetoric. And that's problematic, because some people are falling for that. And that's why I think that it's most important for us to look at methodologies that Reverend Barber is using with regard to Moral Mondays and his Poor People's Campaign, because one of the things that he's doing is he's bringing groups together who otherwise would have nothing to do with one another, particularly when you're talking about poor and working class, Black, white, Latino, Arab, Asian persons. The number one thing they have in common is their economic situation, because many persons are unemployed or underemployed. If you were working in plants in GM or Ford or Chrysler, many of those jobs and those plants have gone. They are in other lands now. So the question is, what are we going to do as a nation in terms of redirecting this conversation, this narrative, and also trying to put the economy in this country back on track? That's the kind of message we need to hear more.
Thank you, Vic, for once again putting the train back where it's supposed to be going down this track. We keep getting lost in this conversation that I'm trying my hardest not to get lost in. What I'm saying to you is, in November, you're either going to have a new president or you're not. And so what I'm saying to you now is, looking forward to November. Before you even get there, what are the steps and the measurements that the people are putting in place to make sure that their position changes? Again, I'm going to go back to the fact that, and I did not hold my tongue or hide the fact that, and Mike, I'm going to say pissed. I know you didn't want to say, you use your name, whatever, but I was pissed off at the fact that Congress had the nerve to go on vacation in the middle of a pandemic when you have millions of frontline workers who are still working.
Yeah.
How dare you can go on vacation? And I meant that for everybody. And I don't want to hear
Stop it.
Hold up. I don't want to hear the line up, because I know where you about to go with that. I don't want to hear the line of, well, if Mitch is in charge and Mitch say they got to go on vacation, Mitch said that y'all ain't going to have the meetings. Mitch can't stop you from going to your office and making calls and talking to your constituents. Mitch can't stop you from getting online and blasting everybody that's not in work in DC right now. Mitch can't stop you from calling people out that is not there ready and willing to work on this pandemic relief stuff that you need. So no, I was mad at both sides for that. I'm not going to feel bad about being mad at both sides for that, because at the end of the day, yeah, all that party stuff is cute, but the reality is the people were affected by that. You go on vacation, you still have your paycheck, you still have your health care, you are fine, but you have millions of Americans who have lost their jobs because the pandemic has caused a lot of places to shut down. You have millions of Americans whose children cannot go back to school. So now they have to work remotely and be teachers, because let's be honest, but a kid is sitting in front of a classroom. Sitting in front of a computer, they're not going to necessarily pay attention because they're not directly in that classroom. So now you've got to deal with all of that. Then you've got people who their child, you don't know what kind of special needs they had. You don't know what people's living situations were. You had a lot of people who were looking at getting evicted. You had all of this stuff happen, and you telling me you're going to take a vacation, and your excuse to me is, I got to go because Mitch said I got to go. Mitch can't stop you from going to your office. Mitch can't stop you from blasting everybody that's not there trying to work on this package. That's not a good enough excuse for me.
All right, so you saw Nancy Pelosi out there every day. Nancy Pelosi was out there every day saying we need to have Congress back in session. You did see that, right? I just want to make sure we got that clear.
Come on, Deep Blue, bring it. Go ahead.
Okay. Nancy Pelosi was out there every day saying, hey, we need to be back in session. We've got deals we got to make. We got to get these $600 in people's hands. The Republicans automatically say we're going to drop it down to $200, and the states got to put in another $100 to match or whatever they was talking about, some nonsense. And right now today, people are suffering, not because of Democrats. We try to give people more money because of Mitch McConnell. And I don't want to play this game of both sides do things. This is like saying your family is as bad as somebody from the outside shooting into your house. It ain't the same deal. When you can deal with your family later if y'all want to fight amongst each other. and y'all want to do that. But listen, I'm gonna say this. You got to. Look, Mitch McConnell called that. Democrats were coming out saying, "Listen, we need to be back in session. We should be back in session right now." On the steps of the post office the other day, I saw Dan Kildee. I saw other Democrats and Dan Kildee and plenty of other people talking about what needs to happen with the Postmaster General.
Going back to vote on the UPS thing, on the USPS thing tomorrow. But what I'm saying to you is, Mike, that's all well and fine, but like the reality is, at some point, and I told you this before, I'm tired of the whiny we can't do nothing. Because if that's the case, I'm not gonna, you know what? I'm gonna stay on the track because I don't even want to go there with Deep Blue and his party today. But in a minute, we're gonna talk about how they do AOC and all that other stuff. But we're not gonna do it today. I'm gonna stay on track with this one, Mike. The bottom line is, how I feel is how I felt about it. I felt like at that point, government failed, period. Okay? Because the thing that you don't understand is before Mitch McConnell told the Senate to go on vacation, the House had already gone on vacation. You're not bringing up that part.
So we just talked about the fact that you said they came in to handle the post office and other stuff, right? But let me say this.
Wait. They're just coming back.
Look where we are.
Everybody took their vacation. Don't act like it's just the House took their vacation.
Candice, look where we are. You and I are arguing over semantics when the real issue is that.
I'm not arguing over semantics.
So what? Look, as they were saying back in the day, between SNCC and the SCLC and the Black Muslims and everybody else, we got to keep our eye on the prize. We are 74 days away from the destruction of this country or us being able to move this country forward. We've got to keep our eye on voting. We've got to make sure that everybody is a part of this process. Donald Trump wrecked this country with his COVID response. That has nothing to do with Democrats. The reason why we're still in this situation, my son can't go to school today because of Donald Trump. Let's keep our eye on the prize. Because of Mitch McConnell and the rest of them, people are suffering, losing businesses, can't pay their bills, will be getting evicted out of their homes in the middle of winter because of Mitch McConnell. We got to keep that focus. I'm not saying Democrats couldn't do more. They could be doing a whole lot more. I do not disagree with you on that point. But put the onus way. Okay.
This is the thing, though. This is the killer. It's like when I open up my mouth, the first thing I do say is I recognize what Mitch McConnell was doing. I recognize what Donald Trump is doing. But then I go into the fact that I'm not pleased with what the Democrats are doing either. And the first thing you say is, whoa, hold up. You got to keep your eye on the prize. The prize for me is the American people being in control of the government as they should be. That's the prize for me. So when you say keep your eye on the prize, you got to define what the prize is for you. The prize for me is not having a government that goes back and forth after they've all came in, Democrat and Republican, came and pandered. They came and pandered for my vote. And now they want to tell me, I told you. What did I say? I got a problem with people not making livable wages. But then they're sitting up here and they get paid regardless. I got a problem with that, Mike. That's not all right.
So let me say this.
Hold up. I didn't blame anybody in particular for the pandemic, even though we know it's Donald Trump's fault the way he responded. What I said was them going on vacation in the middle of a pandemic is unacceptable. I didn't put it on the Dems, but they did go on vacation. And you're not going to act like they didn't go on vacation, Mike. They went on vacation. They did. The House went on vacation before the Senate. Come on now, Mike.
So let me make sure I got this right. So I want to use the proper language. Like you millennials say, y'all got to secure the bag. And because we're back in my day, we said we got to get paid. I got to get mine, you got to get yours. So we got to get out here and get paid. And payday is November 3rd. If we lose focus of that, arguing over semantics, I'm not saying who's on vacation, who not on vacation. We got to keep our eye on the prize. Wow. Get this vote in. See, if you don't get this vote in, All the stuff you're talking right now about the living wage and all the stuff is going to go to heck in the handbasket. We should be using every moment we talk about. And see, this is what it's designed to do. This is what Republicans mixture is designed to do, to muck up everything and to make sure you think it don't matter who's in. It don't matter who's in. Democrats are the same as Republicans. It don't matter who vote for. So my vote don't matter. They just stirring up the pot. And now I bet you they're a whole lot quiet on them comments now because they're going to say Democrats is the same as Republicans. They're all the same. Muck it up, muck it up, muck it up when they are not the same.
Let me pause you real quick, Deep Blue. Let me pause you because I'm telling you, if they don't need to put nobody else on CNN for them, they need to put you. If they don't need to put nobody else, they need to put you, Mike. Because here you go, trying to act like I'm talking to sticking to some Republican talking points. No, sir. I'm sticking to human decency talking points of, come on now, Mike. If you telling me my aunt, who's a nurse, my aunt ain't missed a day at work, but Congress, who ain't got to go in and literally deal with the deadly disease right in their face every single day, stop it, Mike. Look, the reality is, I get your point. It's not that I don't get your point. You and I both know I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm also not a wrong supporter either. Come on. We both know as far as I'm concerned. Hold up. We both know as far as I'm concerned, we ain't got to wait till November. Trump can leave today as far as I'm concerned. We know that. But
he's not going to leave today.
But he's not going to leave in November, whether he lose or not. He built
hold on. Now we're talking.
Why do you think he getting all the police and stuff on his side? He building his own special police force. Y'all gonna have to bomb him out of that White House. He ain't leaving. He is not leaving. So it don't matter.
Hold on. It does matter. This is where you and I disagree.
Real quick. You heard him say the other day. Did he not say the other day that he'll accept the election result if he thinks they were fair? Let me tell you, the only result he's gonna think is fair is if he wins. So y'all be prepared to deal with that. Okay? Y'all be prepared to deal with that.
All right, so wait a minute. So let's go down this rabbit hole. Do you want to go down this rabbit hole?
That's an excellent point.
Hold on. Let's go down this rabbit hole.
I'm looking for that. That's an excellent point about his private police force protected him in case he loses and he'll stay in the White House or try to anyway. I'm gonna look for that.
That's why he keeps saying I'm a law and order president. That's why he keeps trying to say that's why he won't say anything wrong about the police. That man is building up his own special police force because he is not leaving.
I get this. Remember last week when I told y'all that he was training racists, he's training subversives within the Border Patrol, and those were the people he was sitting in Portland, Oregon. Remember I was talking about that?
True.
All right. True. So I've been talking about him and his police force, but you get this is chess, not checkers. You got to make the moves properly. If we don't get our people out and vote, all this means nothing. So the first move is to make sure you get your people out and voting in overwhelming force. Once you do that, you say, hey, we made our move. You need to go, sir. And then you start going through the other processes that are constitutional, whether he wants to deal with them or not. They're out there. Brother Vic talked about war. We can say, hey, listen, you got your police force in there in the White House. Like, don't make us have to come in because we've already done step one. It's voted you out in overwhelming numbers. And then look, we voted you out. The next step is for you to leave on January 20th.
What does that tell you that we are having a conversation about what if somebody refuses to peacefully surrender power? What does that tell you where we are?
Exactly.
But he's only able to have this conversation because you and I are arguing for 20 minutes about Democrats being the same as Republicans. If we was focusing on these two in the White House.
Hold up. I never once said the Democrats and the Republicans were the same. I said I didn't appreciate any of them going on vacation. I ain't thinking that back.
But Candice.
No.
Here's what I'm saying.
Deep Blue.
You're deep.
Deep Blue. Thank you, Paul. Because we know Deep Blue.
Hold up. Why keep muting my mic, man? Why keep muting my
We know Deep Blue rides for his party. But Vic, you heard me. I didn't say that they were the same. I said I didn't appreciate nobody going on vacation. I didn't argue that they were the same or different. I simply said nobody should have been going on vacation during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And I meant it. I'm not taking it back. Let me read a couple of these comments because we've got to wrap it up in 5 minutes here. Let me get a couple of these comments because they have not been quiet in the comment section. Hometown Hero said, "Oh, I love that lie too. Trump ain't going nowhere. What a bunch of trash. Clinton has never accepted the results of the election. She still thinks she won." Let me make it clear to you the difference, Hometown Hero. Hillary didn't try to move in the White House anyway. Okay? She didn't go pack her stuff and say, "I still live here. I didn't lose. I won the popular vote." The difference is Trump already said, if I don't like the results, I ain't leaving. So what you gonna do with that?
He said that himself. That's right.
He said it. Second, Shardy said Democrats and Republicans are the same in terms of their wealth, education, but are different in terms of their policies, ideologies, and for some reason their racism. Hometown Hero said, "Yep, make sure the overwhelmingly vote Democrat without doing a lick of research, just blindly follow Biden."
Whatever.
And pretend that we are in some alternate reality where we have to worry about Trump not leaving if he loses. How sad. Shardy said that's very true.
He said it, my man.
That Shardy said that's very true, Candice. Donald Trump sure is building his own personal security and police force, and we know that's just by him sending some into different cities to quote unquote stop the violence. He never said that. Hometown Hero, I promise you can look it up. He said that he will only accept the results of the election if he likes it. Those were his words.
Yeah, he is a joke, Hometown Hero. Your president is a joke.
Can I give y'all military tactics real quick? So let me talk about forward observers. And what you do when you're dealing with military is you send in your forward observers first. And what they do is find out what the movement is. So they're sending out his people to Portland, to other cities, to be infiltrated into police departments. They go out first and they look at what's happening. They assess it. They find out what the tactics are of that particular city, what the cutoff points are, what the choke points are. He's sending out his forward observers, if you wish, those kind of words. He's sending those people out right now to assess what will happen if the cities try to raise up against him. So we got to be very careful of what he's doing. These tactics in Portland, in Seattle, in Michigan, and other places where he's infiltrating his people in, he's getting ready for when we do decide to make his butt get out of that White House. You got to be careful. Those are military tactics, and he's using them right now.
Anyway, so you broke up again. Hello. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. But I just want to be clear that Mike Deep Blue, you are to the Democrats what these conservatives in the comment section are to the Republicans. Y'all are diehard, ride or die. I'm gonna tell you something though. I think it's scary that both you and those in the comment section refuse to acknowledge the flaws in your party. I think that's ultimately what keeps us blinded, and that's ultimately what makes it so that there's no change that really occurs for the people. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you can't check your party, something's wrong. If you can't admit that your president has said and done racist things, something is wrong. If you can't admit that he's enacted policies and that he's been flat out wrong and his response to this pandemic was awful, then something's wrong. He started off by saying there was no pandemic. Let's be clear. Then he started off by saying Corona was no big deal. It was going away in the summertime. Then he made the governors compete with each other for equipment. Come on now. His response has been ridiculous. That is not of someone in leadership. And that is the reality. The way he's handled this pandemic, they've figured out how to capitalize and monetize. He then brought up all the equipment that he told them they had to compete for and said, oh, no, this is our stuff. I'm thinking, this is the United States, and if you're the president, that's supposed to be everybody's stuff. But we know that that's not how that works. Okay, but anyway, Mike, go ahead. 30 seconds. Wrap it up.
All right. I've been on basketball teams, and I've been in the military. We can argue, Candice, on November 4th, but no team wins when you're arguing on the bench when the game is going on. We're in the fourth quarter, in the middle of the game. We ain't got time to argue on the bench. Let's win this game. We can argue on November 4th. We can argue in the locker room after we done won the game. We got to win the game on November 3rd. Keep your focus. Keep your focus. Focus.
All right, go ahead, Vic. Go ahead, Vic.
Look, people, if you're looking for a leader, look in the mirror. You are the leader that we're looking for.
All right, and the only thing that I will say to that, because I know Hometown Hero came back and said he's a libertarian and we think Biden is the answer. My response to that is Trump has done enough stuff for me to say absolutely not, never going to happen. Didn't vote for him to begin with because he came off divisive and I'm not with it. And what I will say that I do agree with Mike on is the fact that y'all want to talk about all these third parties. Y'all should have been talking about that before we were down to 2 candidates. This is where it is. I'm not voting for Trump. I have no problem with saying I'm not voting for Trump. That's not happening. I have no problem with saying I'm telling other people, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And all that unemployment stuff that y'all are trying to give Trump claim to, that was Obama's unemployment. That was Obama's black unemployment rate that went up. So let's while we, because I kept seeing that in the comment section, but since that wasn't what I was talking about, I didn't want to address it. That unemployment rate ain't Trump's. You need to check the records now. Now what you're seeing in unemployment, that's Trump's. And everything that was coming before the pandemic, because unemployment was already dropping before then, that's Trump's. But that first year, all that stuff he's touting and claiming, that's Obama stuff. Fact check, look into it yourself. We'll be back here next week at 5 p.m. with Whose Opinion Is It Anyway? We look forward to all of you joining us again. Thank you for your opinion. This has been Whose Opinion Is It Anyway with Candice.
And Victor.
And Mike. We're going to keep Deep Blue muted. See y'all next week.
Peace.